There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I'm beating every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing everything on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up with a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. Devil May Cry was developed by Capcom and released in the US in October of 2001, and many more times as remasters for many different systems. What began as Resident Evil 4, the combat ended up far too gone from survival horror, and it was decided to be a new game while taking Resident Evil 4 in a different direction. Scores were high, and the game currently sits at a 94 on Metacritic. Can I beat this badass game? I remember when Devil May Cry first came out, I was so excited to get it and play it, and I really loved it when I got it. In fact, I was able to beat most of the game all the way through Dante Must Die mode. I did get stuck, and one day I may come back to take revenge for not being able to beat it. But for now, we're going to go through the journey here and see what we can find out about one of the better games on the PS2, in my opinion. At the beginning of the game, we get a text crawl that tells us about a millennia ago how the demons were attacking our world from the underworld, and only one person could stand up to them, someone who was from the demon world, and his name was Sparta, and he defeated the demons and stayed in the human world to keep the peace until he finally died. And that's it for that. In fact, the next thing we get is a cutscene showing us our main character, Dante, Mr. White-haired badass cool dude, who gets a sword shoved directly through his chest by this woman here. So she's here to actually recruit him to see if he wants to come over and stop the new evil that's resurfaced, Mundus. He's a big old demon, and he's the one that Dante believes killed his mom and his brother. So she's here to just like lay it on top of him and see if he's actually Dante, because, you know, he's just in this shop in town. Trish is her name, and she is satisfied with our extreme power and the fact that we just walk off a blade in the chest, which is... you know, wonderful, man. But anyway, so she's like, okay, so I know where to go. There's this castle on this island, and that's where Mundus is. So come with me, and we can start your special revenge journey. Devil May Cry is very similar to how Resident Evil works, but not so much the gameplay. I mean, you do find things in the environment like items and keys to open doors, and it's very much similar to how Resident Evil works in that regard, but the combat is action and it's much faster paced. We're not a survival game this time, but this game was what Resident Evil 4 was going to be, and then it kind of evolved and mutated, and they're like, oh man, we should make a different game out of this because it's looking pretty cool, but it's definitely not Resident Evil. So that's why there's some things that feel similar, like the fixed camera angles and the items opening doors, which is pretty much your main mode of getting through each level. Otherwise, you have your sword and you have guns. There are different swords and different guns you can equip that all do different things, and you fight enemies in this action combat style setting. You've got dodges, you've got blocks, you've got some combos that you can do by pressing X at the right time, and you've also got some powers that we'll get later on, and we'll talk about those when I get them. This game is split into different chapters. There isn't actually a ton of story. It's not like it's chock full of all this lore and stuff, not in the way that you'd expect. So as we go through here, our whole goal is to just find Mundus and kill him. So there aren't like a bunch of twists and turns all over the place. We will get some, and there's some cutscenes and you'll learn a little bit more about the game, but a lot of this is just kind of pushing through, learning how to find things, and then killing enemies. So one of the big collectibles in this game is going to be our red orbs, and red orbs are the way that we spend on upgrades to our character, to some of the weapons and your devil trigger, which allows you to do some new moves and attacks, and it uses a bar at the top of the screen. You will be mostly invincible while doing this. You can get hurt sometimes, but mostly you're going to be regenerating health. You can add to those by using the red orbs. There's also blue orbs, which are your health. It's kind of like the heart pieces in Legend of Zelda, almost exactly. You find 4 and you get a little extra health. Then you've got the purple orbs, which will give you more devil trigger, and then also yellow orbs, which are your lives. You do have a life system in this game, and it's not necessarily that big of a deal, but they are helpful to have so you don't have to restart from a save. As I move about testing out my controls, I see the first enemy in the game that's the most common enemy you'll see practically from the start all the way to the end, these demonic marionettes. And they come in different forms and varieties. Eventually you'll fight some very tough ones later on, but they're mostly fairly easy to take care of once you get used to the combat system. This first part of the game is all about exploring and getting used to what goes on. Here we have to open the door next to us, but the only way to open it is to go down this little chute and fight some enemies in an arena and then come back up. And that's it. There's not really like any bigger reason why you're doing this, it's just to progress forward. At the end of a stage, you will get graded on the amount of time it took you to fight, and the orbs and like enemies, I think, and maybe even how many times you died, but you get a bonus of red orbs, and this is kind of helpful because the more red orbs you get, the more abilities you can upgrade earlier on, and honestly, some of them early on in the game are way more helpful. Near the end of the game, there's some things you can do that make it a little easier, but right now it's really good to get some red orbs, so getting higher mission grades gets you better stuff, and it's worth to try, although I don't always do it. Before each mission and during the mission sometimes, you can go to the store, which is where you'll buy your skills and some items like these stars that will give you back your health or your devil trigger once you get it. Then you've got holy water, which is just a great item. You just throw and it destroys everything in a room. You can buy some of the orbs, this is the place you can find some orbs. Blue orbs are mostly hidden around the environment, but you can have some here. There's even the untouchable, which is a lot more helpful than you think. You think it might not do as much, but no, it literally makes you invincible for a few minutes. So if you have enough money to buy some, you might as well buy some so that you can make some parts of the game easier. In this second mission, I get impaled by yet another sword, and obviously the clear solution to getting this sword out of my body isn't to pick it up and pull it out of my chest, but to lift my entire body through the blade, and the part where he hits the hilt doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'll tell you what, when I was younger, this was the most badass thing you could do. I remember just watching it all like, oh my god, wait, this doesn't make sense, but I'll accept it. As you fight enemies, you will get scored during the fights. Up at the top right, you'll get these cool little combo words that'll tell you if you're doing a good job. You got dull and cool and stylish when you get to S, and the more times you get higher up, the better your score at the end. Plus, the higher that score up there, which each letter corresponds to the letters of, like a tier list, something that I'll do soon, but B, A, S. And so once you get those, enemies will drop more red orbs if you kill them while you have that combo up. So this right here is exactly why I said it was a little similar to Resident Evil. You have this little statue here and it says some kind of cool little quote, and then you must find the item that will go here so you can go through it. Now, not all of these things need to be gone through. Some of them are like secrets or secret missions, which I'll do soon, and most of them are pretty obvious. Like, this game is very linear as opposed to Resident Evil, where you are in a large area and you're constantly going back and forth between different rooms. This is linear. There's very few times you have to double back once you've found something. There are a couple times at the beginning, but in the end, it's just grab this, go, and it will lead you to the next spot. These guys are pretty sweet enemies. They carry these big pairs of scissors, and they follow you around trying to chomp you with the scissors. And they are deadly if you let them hit you, so you really got to take them out quick. You can also get the shotgun here, I believe, although it took me a minute to find it. I just couldn't remember where it was, so luckily I find it later. But the shotgun's really useful against these guys. You can get critical hits on them with guns if you are directly in their face and you hit them. It hits them in the head, because when you aim, it's just like this auto aim. You push the button, he aims at the closest enemy, and you fire. While I played on the normal difficulty, there is an easy automatic mode. It's definitely a good mode for beginners. In this mission right here, we have to get the Pride of the Lion, and to do this, we've got to go across this bridge, and we've got to go down under the water and fight. The bridge eventually breaks, and we fall into the water, where we have to fight some more dudes, and we just kind of go back and forth in this small area, clicking on things until we find the right way. We finally get our first boss fight, and it's against an enormous lava spider named Phantom. I remember seeing this in gaming magazines, and they said, look, you can touch the boss and it won't hurt you. In fact, you can ride on his back and shoot him in the back of the head. It's all about getting hit by him during his animations rather than touching him, which, a while back, just touching a boss was a big deal, like it would hurt you. So this was a thing I remember seeing in Game Informer, how you could touch the boss. Anyway, this guy isn't really that difficult. He does fire this fireball out of his mouth, and you can whack it back to him, Legend of Zelda style, and it will hurt him, but he's also got some other attacks you must dodge. But like I said, you can also land on his back and just pelt him in the back of his head with the shotgun or the pistols if you have it, and you get your devil trigger back pretty easily. And as long as you keep keep up just smashing the fireball back in his face, he's pretty simple. When you beat this boss, he does not die. In fact, the next time you come back for the next mission, he will follow you down the hallway. Now, I was trying to figure out if you could fight him and get some red orbs by fighting him in the hallway, which, yes, you can. You can either run all the way down the hall as fast as you can and get into a door and he's gone, or you can turn around and stand and fight him. If you fight him, I think you get like 5,000 red orbs, and when I do it, I kind of spam hoping I can kill him, and while I do kill him, I lose almost all my health, so it doesn't feel very good, but I'm like, you know what, it was worth it. Alright, here is one of these secret missions. It will tell you it's secret and tell you to start. Most of the time these secret missions are found by going back to an area you've already completed. You do not have to complete these secret missions, but it's pretty helpful to. Some of them give you items, some of them give you just red orbs, and they're always worth going to because if you fail them, nothing bad happens. You just fail, that's it. You can keep trying over and over as long as you don't leave the area. Here's a good hidden blue orb. If you get air hike or if you get air raid or vortex, you can jump up the side of this on top of it and then grab a blue orb hanging on that platform up there, which is pretty neat. Oh man, we unlocked the Shadow Cat dudes, who are pretty tough, man. They really are. If you hurt them enough, they reveal the little orb in their body and you can hit it to kill them, so you can't actually kill them until you hit that orb. But this one literally starts out by attacking you as the cutscene ends. So if you are not paying attention, you're going to take damage. Now, I learned very quickly that it's important to learn how to roll properly. And it's a little difficult because you've got to hold a couple buttons and you cannot roll forward, you can only roll left and right. And it's a little difficult to get used to, but once you do, you're going to find yourself wanting to roll a lot more often. I believe you get a few iframes, but you also just dodge out of the way of a lot of enemies' attacks, which is super helpful. We get to our next boss fight, which is against this cool looking dude called Nello Angelo. And I mean, they try without telling you to show you that he is you. He ends up being our identical twin brother, Virgil, which is a very popular character later on in the series. And in this one, it's not obvious, like it's not clear enough. I mean, you can probably deduce it from the fact that the mirror image comes out and it's him and he transports into him, and later on he's going to show us his pendant and we have the other half, but it still isn't said anywhere out loud, so it can easily be confused as just your nemesis or something like that, or even someone who looks kind of like what you'd imagine Sparta to look like, which, I mean, is another giveaway, but it's not immediately apparent. He is a bit of a tough fight, but if you take your time, get a little chip shots in from your pistols when he's doing stuff, and then just make sure not to go all in with your combos, because if you go all in with your combos and he turns around and combos you, it's gonna wreck you, man. In normal mode, it's pretty difficult. They do a lot of damage. After the boss fight, they very, very nicely give us some more fights with these Shadow Cats, and at one point we're going to be fighting 2 Shadow Cats at once, which means we're going to have to use Devil Trigger to wreck them quickly, because, man, these guys are just so difficult. The next mission, we get introduced to these little bug guys who fly around, which, take shotgun shots to the face pretty badly, and obviously your Devil Trigger just blasts them apart, especially the ones that, zap around the room. So they aren't necessarily hard, but in large numbers, they can be pretty annoying. Okay, so you remember the scissor dudes? There's this super ultra scissor dude who blocks your path sometimes, and he is tough. Getting critical hits on him and learning how to fight him is really important, although you can kind of just fudge it by using the grenade launcher when you get it, or just Devil Trigger and hoping you can get him down quick enough, but he just kills you so quickly. Oh my god, it's this dude again. He just cannot kill me, and it's hilarious that he's trying so hard. Okay, I fight Phantom one more time in a regular old arena, and this time there is no coming back from this, which is great because finally I actually killed someone. It's not just making him run away, I killed him. We see this little cutscene of Trish, and she's like, oh my god, he's powerful, and she seems to be a little suspicious. Okay, don't laugh at me that it took this long to find out where the shotgun is, but I found the shotgun finally. I finally make my way out of the castle itself, which is kind of odd because I'll end up coming back here soon enough. It just feels like I'm going in circles looking for this Mundus dude. I wonder why. Oh, new weapon! We got the Ifrit gauntlets, which do have some pretty good applications, although in the end I think it's still better to use the sword, but I do use these sometimes, and you can switch between weapons I think on the fly by pressing one of the sticks in, and it will switch and you can kind of like add to your combos. But honestly, the best thing these are for the ice lizard dudes, which it'll kill them very quickly because it's fire. Okay, now that the spider's gone, we don't have a boss to fight, so we gotta fight this big thing. I'm not sure what kind of bird it is, but it is not happy with me, so this is gonna be the next couple boss fights for us. His first form isn't too difficult. In fact, this is where I started to get stuck on Dante Must Die mode. He is difficult in Dante Must Die with how many projectiles he fires and how often he does them and how much damage it does in that mode. But in this mode, it's not too bad. I'm able to jump up and zap his ass. I kind of like this next section where it's in a misty forest where you've got dudes with fire who will show where they are in the forest, but it's still kind of hard to see where enemies are. It's supposed to be like this interesting area. You've got to try and figure out how to get to the enemies before they hit you from inside the mist, and they'll just pop up out of nowhere and they can kill you very quickly. I now have the grenade launcher, which is a pretty good weapon. It doesn't necessarily help you with combos, but when you're fighting enemies, it will blow multiple enemies back, plus it will hit multiple enemies in an area, allowing you to get a little more damage off. Some of the enemies that block will also get hit by the grenade blast, and it won't just necessarily block all the damage, but it isn't a good one for keeping a combo up. There's this cute little section where we gotta follow this little white light around. It's not hard, it just follow it. The thing is, I think you have to kill these enemies quick enough, and the light goes inside of the enemies, so you've got to kill the enemies quick enough for the light to come back out and guide you to the next area. Otherwise, there's like only a few paths, and you just follow it directly. Oh man, this dude is such a hard fight. He summons little whirlwinds around the area to fling you up in the air. I mean, it sometimes can help you, but honestly, just fighting this guy like this, it takes so long. You need to get the right amount of damage off on him, and sometimes it's just too difficult with something like the grenade launcher. Instead, I've switched to the pistols, and it's much easier to keep, like I said, my combo meter up, plus the damage on him. Oh, that's our brother again. He's ready to fight us this time for real. I mean, not for real. I think there's another fight after this one, but he's ready to kick our ass. Yeah, this is not the last fight. In fact, this one's a lot easier. I'm able to kind of stagger him with some of my combos, and he's just not able to get out of it, so I kill him here really quickly. Oh no, we've got underwater sections. They honestly aren't terrible. And you've got one gun that works underwater. It's the harpoon gun. And once you get it, you use it underwater the few times you have to go underwater. And it's fine. It's not the greatest. It's first person, and you must aim where you're going and then press triangle to go forward. So sometimes it's hard to remember that you must push a button to swim and aim where you're going, but it's just kind of odd. And wherever you aim is where you're gonna shoot, like just your first person aim. So you've got to look directly at the enemy and then fire. There's no locking on, and it's difficult when you're trying to get through some of these like little doors underneath the water. Before we get into the water, we're on this cool pirate looking ship, or this ghost ship, and it's really neat. For a while we fight on top of it and direct it through these water pathways, which is kind of weird, thinking like it just told me about water controls and we're doing this instead. We've got to fight like a little mini boss, another one of those big scissor guys. We can find some blue orbs hanging around on top of the thing, as well as some red orbs. And then we have to refight this guy, and he's not terrible on this one. It's not too bad. You've got a limited spot to like stand, so I think he comes down and lands more often, which makes it a little easier to get the damage off on him, especially when he opens his little chest cavity to show you that. Okay, here it is, the slightly difficult to tell what you're doing underwater section. It's very blurry. I mean, just in general, very blurry. I wonder if it's, half-baked. They didn't really put very many of these in the game, so just be glad they didn't. It's not a long trek through the underwater part. In fact, it's like 2 missions you're underwater and then you never see it again, so it's whatever. I find myself scaling some cliffs around these very pretty looking vistas. We got some waterfalls, we've got lots of cliff faces to jump up and around. It's pretty nice. This game, honestly, the ambience is great, the atmosphere is great, like everything around it feels cool. It's just a neat setup. Oh, we got some little stone spiders that come fight us. I guess they're mad that we killed their daddy. We got a couple little puzzles to go through here. There's some spikes that come out around this revolving little circle thing, but it's not really that difficult. You just kind of slowly move around. When you do get some enemies to fight, it makes it a little difficult, but even then, you can just combo, stagger an enemy, and then run out of the way. Okay, this was the boss fight I got stuck on quite often during Dante Must Die mode. This one is hard. He is tough here, even missing a wing. This guy really goes hard, and it does some incredibly powerful attacks. Although in normal mode, I feel like he's pretty simple. I've gotten what I need to do, and when he does these little bullet hell mode things, it's easy to just jump up and double trigger and go right through him. But yeah, he's done for this time. He's actually done for. Mundus comes out of the sky and kills him for not being strong enough to actually fight me. I'm not really sure what Mundus's goal is, but yeah, this guy dies. Here we talk to Trish about how Mundus killed my mother and my brother, I'm sure of it, and he says, Mundus makes me sick, which, I guess, okay, man, all right, Mr. Badass. But, you know, he does have feelings, obviously. He acts like a badass all the time, but he has feelings. We head back to the castle for some reason. I'm not really exactly sure why we keep heading back to the castle. We're just hanging out here. Then we're just trying to find exactly where Mundus is, and we fight these glowing light beings with one eye who laser beam us, and they're tough. If you don't kill them, you can run, and that's fine, but sometimes you gotta. Okay, we get to this sludgy boss, and he is just tough, man. You need to reveal his little core by hitting the things on the wall and lighting them up, and hoping that it stays open. I don't know, he's just freaking tough. He's like not fun to fight because it doesn't feel like it makes sense what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to reveal this like orb, kind of like the Shadow Cats, and when you do, you have to jump on it and hit it, but it's not always obvious like when he's going to attack and how long it's gonna last when he reveals that orb. Sometimes he reveals the orb and you jump up to hit it and he just smacks the shit out of you like a bunch. But then other times you jump up and he just lets you combo off on him like 8 or 9 times. And it's like, okay, which one is it going to be this time? Is he going to kill me if I just go up and attack this? Should I run around? Sometimes he also grabs you and pulls you into his little weird underworld where you fight these floating skulls, which are really creepy, but I like them. I like these skulls. They remind me of the skulls from Doom. He pulls you down here, and when you kill them while you get out, I think you do damage to him when you do this, so it's not entirely useless to do, because at least you don't have to fight him during this section. It's just like dealing damage to him, also through other bosses, which, I mean, I guess it's fine. I don't know, the sludge guy sucks. You have to fight him 3 friggin' times, man. Here are the ice lizard dudes. These guys are freaking tough, man. They just jump on your ass and destroy you. If you switch to the Ifrit gauntlets and use your devil trigger, you can keep them in a combo and kill them in about like 2 seconds. But I start by using this at first. I don't know, I'm just lazy and didn't push the button to go to the Ifrit gauntlets. So don't do the same thing. Switch to the Ifrit gauntlets. Ooh, scary dinosaur skeleton firing fireballs at you for some reason that you gotta knock back at him. I don't really know why this exists, but it's kind of cool. Okay, Virgil, or Nello Angelo, is now powered up beyond belief, and he's very, very strong, and this one I die to a couple times. I just get too into trying to combo off on him quickly and kill him no matter what. I think, oh, I'm just gonna take some damage, whatever, I'll just keep comboing and I'll kill him. No, you can't, because he will block a lot of your attacks, and then you get screwed. In fact, it actually dictates what he's going to do next when he blocks your attack successfully, and he will combo off on you instead. So you need to be a little bit more careful and dodge and like get out of the way. So in these missions, we're just kind of jumping through mirrors and taking out like opposite world type things. It's not like, is that interesting? I mean, you're still going back to the areas you've already been, but now you're just doing it a little differently. It looks a little different. All right, here's Mr. Sludge in the ground yet again, showing me his little orb, and I'm comboing off on it, and it's not going well all the time. This guy just takes way too many attempts. I do end up buying some holy waters, and when he reveals his orb, as long as you get him to reveal the orb and then use the holy water, it will deal a lot of damage to him. I think a lot of speedrunners use that or did use it at one point, but it's just so much easier to do sometimes. Buy a holy water, blast his ass, he's done. We go through a lot of combat scenarios until we finally find ourselves in this special puddle of water we drop into and drop down into the underworld, which is where we need to like unlock fighting Mundus, I guess. Trish is for some reason on the ground acting hurt, and she's like, you gotta save me, you have to help me, I'm in in danger. And it's like, wait, weren't you you were shooting yellow stuff out of your hands earlier, throwing bikes at me and swords through my chest? But hey, look who it is. It's Mr. fucking Sludge. Oh, who would have fucking guessed that Trish is actually working for Mundus? Oh, no one even thought in the wildest dreams that this would have happened. And so she's all like gung-ho about it. She's like, yeah, I'm so strong and I'm working for Mundus. I've got you. But no, she doesn't. Mundus actually goes to try and kill her, and we save her life at the last second, and we're like, because we're more human than a demon, we have feelings, and then we walk away. The underworld is a very creepy, weird place, and there's even a special secret mission I do, although I never use the item I get. It's pretty much just a combat scenario running through very quickly. You find one of these walls and you break it open, and you find the secret mission. And when you do, once you're done, it's called the time bangle. Apparently it will stop time, but it will take away your devil trigger. And at this point, I've bought a lot of purple stars to regenerate my devil trigger very easily, so that when I'm fighting bosses, I can just spam it and then win. But I don't use the time bangle. Apparently it's pretty good though. I fight more blue dudes and just scale through these weird looking fleshy cliffs and places until I finally unlock the way to get to Mundus. Apparently he's now thinking that Trish is like my trigger, and he's like, he's gonna go for Trish instead of me. He wants to save Trish, so I'll be able to kill him as he goes to save her. But instead, she comes down to stop this killing blast from hitting me. I mean, I am pretty much surviving everything, so who gives a crap? She comes down and sacrifices herself, or says she sacrifices herself, and Dante gets really upset and unleashes his full power from his Papa Sparta. We are now super special Sparta demon Dante, and we're up in space, or above the clouds, I don't know, it looks kind of like space, and we're fighting Mundus, who is got these big wings, and it's like this bullet hell style fight in the air, which is really odd, and you need to break these little orbs around him to hit him, and you'll want to use your devil trigger, because when you get enough devil trigger, you do an enormous blast and it will hurt him. So this is why in one of these sections, it's good to just take all the purple stars you can, and then use them to get your devil trigger over and over and just blast him to death. I mean, he really isn't that hard of a boss. The sludge boss was harder. I think I died once on him, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, this is how you fight him. And then I kill him. I mean, it's really not that hard. I have 10 stars to blast him with. This last fight, I do some silly stuff, and I jump in the lava with my devil trigger, because if you just stand here, you can kind of blast him without having to worry about where you are. I mean, I am losing a lot of health when I leave devil trigger, and it's a little scary, but it does work for some reason. And so I just keep popping devil stars, jumping in the lava, taking almost no damage, and then killing him. We now have a time limit to escape the entire castle before it self-destructs, I guess. I don't know why it's self-destructing, but regardless, we have to escape. And on our way to out of our escape, there's a bunch of enemies everywhere, which I try mostly to just ignore. I mean, there's no reason to fight them. You can just run past them. Mundus breaks through to the human world and tries to corner us in this tiny little area. And Trish gives us the rest of her power, because she's still alive apparently, and we use it to fight Mundus one last time. This fight is incredibly easy because, I mean, I have a bunch of devil stars. The second my devil trigger ends, I mean, it's the end of the game, I just use another one. I mean, what's the point? He's really easy to fight here. I don't know if he's harder on Dante Must Die. I never got to this boss, but I assume he has to be. I don't know. So I kick his ass and we leave. Da-na-na-na, Dante in a plane, Carrie and Trish. You don't really have to do much here because it's too fast for you to tell what's going on. All you gotta do is shoot and fly. Da-na-na-na. Trish and I have a couple cute little moments where we playfully talk to each other, and it's gross. I don't give a shit about it. But anyway, we have, defeated Mundus, the person who killed our mom and, well, not her brother, but definitely made her brother all weird, and he fought me until he was dead? I'm not really sure. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be that upset that his brother died. He had to have known, right? Does he know? I'm not sure if he does. Regardless, we go back to town, and we change the name of the shop to Devil Never Cry, because in one of the scenes, Trish is crying, and he says, you're more human than demon because devils never cry. Oh no, God, it's the name of the game. Well, she may cry. If she wants. She doesn't have to, but she may cry. So we get together, and I guess we're now going to do the odd jobs I used to do before she came to get me. I don't know. That's it. Devil May Cry, over. Now, let me say this. This was a very fun game. I liked playing it. The story isn't anything crazy. There aren't a bunch of twists and turns. There aren't even that many cinematics throughout the game, except for maybe like boss fights and when you talk to them. But overall, the combat is really fun. The atmosphere is really good, and it's just a neat game overall with a lot of cool stuff you can do in the game. Plus the secret missions, all the orbs, all the hidden stuff. It's just a good time. The boss designs are great. It's just a good game. And I think I want to give this game a 9 out of 10 just because it was so much fun. Like, I enjoyed playing this a lot. So I'm going to say 9 out of 10. So, and we'll see this on the tier list, of course, soon. But yeah, so this is it. Game number 87 is complete. Devil May Cry 1 is done. Devil May Cry 2 is up next. And I have to finish the game. That game, the disc died right at the last boss. So I've got to real quick go to the last boss and just beat him with another. Like, I'm going to get an emulator and put the save over and then do it, because I don't want to have to go through the whole game again. I went through the whole game twice, once with one character and once with Dante, and I'm like, I don't want to play that game again, really. It wasn't bad, it's just dull. So anyway, I'll be back soon, but thank you everyone who stayed into this video so long enough to see the ending. Thank you to everyone who was in the stream. It was a really good streaming game. It was only a couple streams long and it was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who has a membership, Twitch, Patreon, YouTube, whatever it is. Thank you so much. Again, it's making all these games possible, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. And thank you to everyone else. Anyone, doesn't matter who. Thank you. If you heard this, I'm thanking you. So, I'll be back again with game number 88, Devil May Cry 2, soon. Later.